Greetings, Patrick here, 8 Questions With, and welcome to the show. It is a beautiful Wednesday outside, uh, or Thursday, I should say, Thursday. Beautiful Thursday out here. Little nippy earlier, but it's coming out to end up with a bang. It's currently 64 degrees. That's a little nippy. That's a little tiny bit nippy. Um, I know this. How do I know it's still getting a little bit nippy? Because the cheetah is starting to sleep on the bed. That means whenever the weather gets cold, he is a better than any thermometer I know. A thermostat, thermometer. He knows how cold or how hot it is. It's pretty amazing. But you're not here for that. You're here because we will be talking with poet and writer Stasha Strange in about 15 minutes. And yes, that's right. We brought back another poet. We had such a great time with our last one, Katie Thrun, that we decided that we wanted to do it again. So we did, and super stoked about it too. Looking forward to hearing her, and she will be dropping some poems tonight too. She's got some pieces she'll be sharing, so I'm very excited about that to share that with you. Hey, Mike, how's it going, sir? All right, all right. I caught your comment on my community tab. Thank you so much. Yeah, I didn't even realize I had hit 1500. And then I, I don't. Next thing I know, I looked and it says, 15. I'm like, really? I didn't even know because I was at 1496, and I've been at 1496 for a minute. And next thing I know, I look and it's like 1500. I'm like, okay, so a lot of people join me. That's cool. Yeah, thank you, sir. I really do appreciate that. It's been a hard road, that's for sure. Just swimming upriver. Try not to fall in with what everybody else is doing. Not try not to be a jump on the bandwagon what everybody else is talking about. Just following our own path. Um, and we've gotten to 1500, and I'm happy. I'm happy for the channel, and I'm totally grateful for everybody who follows and subscribes and drops comments and all that good stuff. And as I noted, it's only for you, Mike. I raised a half glass of lemonade to you. Um, I would have gave you a jelly bean as well, but I was already out of those. Uh, uh, so yeah, I'm this is gonna be a lot of fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun. 1500, and now I look forward to 1600. I know. Remember though, only a half a glass of lemonade and one jelly bean. That's yeah. Oh my gosh, that story just makes me laugh. I do think though, I do think as funny as the Willy Wonka experience is, I do think there has been two things that have surpassed it as far as silliness goes. One being Corey Feldman trying to play in a band, trying to play guitar, and that Australian breakdancer, Ray Gun. Now everybody's doing the ray gun. They're doing videos of her routine. Now we're gonna get that for like the next 10 months, right? Um, all right. Let me tell you what's going on the calendar, because otherwise we'll be talking about this forever. So tonight we have Stasha. We'll be here at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 o'clock Pacific. We'll be welcoming in Alexander Nesky, all right, and Joe Cornett and Tatiana Neva. They will be with us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Probably Carrie Goodwin as well. Actress Carrie Goodwin will probably also be joining with us at 4 o'clock. And then Saturday night, I will be on the road heading over to Vegas. Me and Brian from Dragon Movie Guy, we will be talking about our seven most anticipated independent films of the fall and winter season. Now we both picked number one. We thought for summer. Both of us picked Borderlands. I still want to see it. And of course, there's a reason why I want to see it. And people know me at all, know why I want to see it. So I don't need to say anything more. But I still want to see it. And I do think that we'll be picking the number one movie for fall and winter too, the number one film. And let me just give you a hint. It's Mike's Countrymen is in our number one film that we're looking forward to. One of his countrymen is in the lead role, and that's going to be my number one. Uh, oh, the number one YouTuber for the number one YouTube movie for fall. Now I know a lot of people would have thought I would have picked Terrifier 3, and I'll be honest with you, Terrifier 3 did make it. I'm already giving it a little half away, but it was not my number one movie. It was not my number one. Uh, but you have to come by Saturday. You have to come by Saturday over at Brian Dragon Guide Movies channel to see what that is. Sunday, Sunday, we're busy. That's right. I'll be heading on over to cross the pond to join our friend Mike. Did you see that? As we will be hosting a panel of YouTubers, and we will be talking about. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know. Mike never tells us. He just asks us to show up. We do, and then we have a hell of a good time. That will be early afternoon, and then of course tomorrow night, or Sunday night at 8 o'clock, we'll be back here on my channel for the ISC show, and we'll be talking about the Cured, featuring Ellen Page, and that movie was picked by our fellow Midnighter Mary Wilson. She picked this movie out, and it looks to be a corker of a film. That's right. So that will be happening on Sunday. Next week's shows here. Next week's shows. Let me just grab this real quick. Make sure my guest can get on okay, in case she has any messages for me. Uh, okay. So here's what we got going on for the last week of August. The last week of August is coming up, and we will be talking to Kim Durham on the 27th. She is a producer, and she has got a new movie out called Pale Horse, which was directed by Perry. I don't know how to say his last name, and I want to be respectful, so let me look that up. I want to say Perry So. I know that he passed away after the movie was completed, and so this is his. I think this is his last movie that he did before he passed away, and so Kim produced the movie. Uh, what did you think of the coffee table? Is that not was I right about it being the number one film? That movie is bonkers, Mike. What did you think about that? Man, that's a badass movie. That is but it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. It blows me away. I got shook off that one. The coffee table is that good. And I love Brightwood. Brightwood was my number one film from last year. Last year, that's my number one film. This year, it will be The Coffee Table. I haven't seen a movie yet that has come close to The Coffee Table. I've seen some good ones, but nothing like that. Uh, oh, you didn't love it? Well, you know what? I got to be honest with you, Mike. I don't know anybody who's going to actually love that movie because of the subject matter. I, it's. But you didn't like the acting? I thought the acting was strong. Wow, I thought the acting was really good. Being a big, yeah, wow. I thought the acting was and the ending was one no one saw coming either. That was just a that was you do know that was a three there was only three people on that shoot. The director, Dane, and then the actors, Max and Dana. But yeah, I would love that movie. That movie is that now that's a movie I do love. I can really I can really respect the coffee table and I like the movie and I think it's outstanding, but that is a very hard watch. That's a hard watch. I don't know too many people that will watch that and then come back there and watch it again. I mean, yeah, I don't know that many people that could do that. I don't know anybody I could show that movie to. I mean, I would love to share that movie out with a lot of people, but I couldn't do that with anybody who's a parent. I just I could only show the coffee table to people who are single and childless. That's it. But xenophobia is on fire. I'm not sure what they've been doing yet. I have not heard anything from them. I have yeah, yeah, they deserve it. Definitely. I mean, I would match up the seriously, and I'm saying this, and I'm an ISC guy. You know this, but I'm still sitting there telling you right now, The Coffee Table is still my favorite movie, and that includes Over Oddity, Late Night with the Devil, Evil Lurks, and A Violent Nature. I still take this year. I still take The Coffee Table over all those. Yeah, I thought that was outstanding. Um, Yeah, independent movies, like I said though, like my number one pick for independent movie this year is not, I expect everybody, if you asked everybody what they're looking forward to in terms of independent films this year, I do think that the movie everybody's going to be talking about, as far as horror anyway, will be Terrifier 3. And while yes, I definitely am looking forward to that movie, I still don't think it's the one that's caught my attention the most. The one that I'm really looking forward to is not Terrifier 3, though it did make my list. Um, Real quick before our guest gets here, I make sure I have to have on my Instagram here, so in case she needs to contact me. Um, yeah, on the 27th, Kim Durham, she'll be here. She might be joined by her husband, Cami Rain, which I'm hoping that happens. But otherwise, we'll be talking with Kim. On the 28th, we had to reschedule Joe Leone. He was supposed to be talking with us earlier in the month when we interviewed Arena Oz, but he was stuck in Greece and he had a really poor reception. So we waited till he got back to stateside, and then we rescheduled our interview with him, and it'll be a one-on-one interview with Joe Leone of Scared to Death, which is his brand new found footage film, and very effective, by the way. It's not bad. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching Scared to Death. It didn't reinvent the wheel per se, but I love the acting. I love the acting. They got some strong performances out of that movie. So Joe will be here on the 28th at 8 o'clock. And then on the 29th, the last day of August, we'll be talking to the Gross brothers, Tim and Tom Gross, who have organized and run a convention, a fan convention or a horror convention called the Gross Fest. And we'll be talking with them on the 29th and seeing what it takes to put together a convention. Now, I had originally a long time ago, I was going to be talking to someone who had a convention, but it didn't work out. And so this is my first opportunity to talk to somebody who has done a convention. So we'll be talking with Tom and Tim about that. And if you ever want to know how a convention is put together, the nuts and bolts of it, that will be the show to show up to. All right, the doorbell has rang. That means our guest Stasha is here, and we are ready for a night of poetry and writing and exploration and words and language. So let's make it happen. All right, here on the road to 1600. Here we go. Hello, Stasha.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, good. How are you? How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Yeah, we were just we were talking we're talking about our previewing our movies, our movie picks for the fall and the winter season. What movies are going to be coming out that caught our attention. And I think a lot of people are going to be were surprised because on our group, there's a lot of horror people around in the group I walk around with. And I think everybody's going to pick. I think everybody thought it was going to be Terrifier 3 for me, and why I love art, and I do.
I have a lot of friends who love the horror genre. I like some of it, but I'm a thriller person.
So there's Art the clown, and he's surrounded by cats because he's a cat guy, which is actually true. That actually came from an actor who portrayed Art. He said that he's a cat person. Are you a cat person?
I am, and you may see them make an appearance behind us as the evening goes on.
They say the greatest poets, the greatest writers, the greatest poets all have cats.
I'm thinking of all my poet friends, and I think you might be right.
I mean, when I think of who's the first writer you think of when you think of cats?
Hemingway.
Yes, absolutely right. Me too. Me too.
And his
Uh,
polydactyls.
his polydactyls, and he actually lived in a small town called Petoskey in Michigan. And me and my wife, we went up to the restaurant that has been open all that time, where he sat at the bar and held court. And it was really cool to know. I didn't know that until we got there, but that was really I really enjoyed that slice of history. And yeah, he was a great writer. Um,
Writers like to hold court because now, as you're saying that, I'm of course thinking of Dorothy Parker and the Algonquin Round Table.
the vicious circle. That's right.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
right. Katie's here. So Kate, so you and Kate, I didn't know this when I asked you to come onto the show. I didn't realize until I had asked you that you and Katie had known each other. Because I had
Actually, I have a book, an anthology coming out on October 3rd called CAW Poetry by a Murder of Writers, and Katie is one of the writers.
really,
Yes.
yeah, she's amazing. She's
It's
she's
got it's a 3 chapters, birth, life, and death. And the only instructions to the writers was to do it through about blackbirds, but metaphor. You don't have to write it about birds. And I'm actually waiting for the proof. The first proof got lost in those tornadoes we had.
oh geez. Now, did your house get hit by a tornado?
About We didn't, but it was about a mile away.
Yeah.
And I was
Last
just watching
August,
out the window. I didn't even make it to the basement.
last August, we got hit. My town got hit. One touchdown about a mile away from me too, and it knocked out our power for 3 days.
Yeah,
Um,
many of our neighbors didn't have power. We set up a charging station in our driveway for anyone who might need it because we lucked out on this side of town. Our power went off and on a couple times, but then we had it back.
yeah, it did that for us too. It looked like it was going to come on, and it went off for like 30 seconds, and it went off, and then it was another 2 days before we got it. And of course, after 3 days, everything goes out. So, I had just got done grocery shopping too, and it was like really, I was like, man, this really blows
That's
because it's
always how it is.
never happens at all. That it's like I don't go grocery shopping and all that a lot, but when I did, and then right happened like the day afterwards, I'm just like, that's why am I not surprised? It's par for the course.
Yeah,
But
I'm still mesmerized by those storms because I relocated from San Francisco to Ohio during the pandemic. And California doesn't really get that kind of weather. We get earthquakes, of course.
right,
We get some rain, but it's really rare to even have lightning or thunder. So, my poor cat, when we first moved here and there was a big storm, he was not pleased.
Well, where you lived in San Francisco? How long did you live in San Francisco for?
I lived there for 30 years.
30 years. When did you move to Ohio then? What year?
2019 or
2019.
2020, one of those.
Wow.
Pandemic time is hard to track.
So, because I lived in San Jose for 16 years.
Oh, perfect. Well, you'll know when I moved out from San Francisco, I moved to the suburbs and lived in Redwood City, which is exactly smack dab between San Francisco and San Jose.
Right. And you're not too far away from Palo Alto.
Nope, Silicon Valley.
Yeah. I worked in Palo Alto.
So did I.
I worked at the Edge.
Very cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was watching the gentrification and the tech companies take over and kind of I'll always love San Francisco, but the actual soul of San Francisco feels like it's not there anymore.
No, no, not at all.
Yeah.
No, but San Francisco, man, that's where I got my baptism of fire into what good poetry is. We used to have open mics at the club I worked at, and we had poetry slams, and that's where, like I said, I learned a lot from watching it. San Francisco has such a vibrant scene too. I mean,
Yeah.
there was poetry being read everywhere.
You know what? Oddly enough, Cleveland is actually busier than the San Francisco poetry scene, much to my surprise. And I used to hang out at City Lights, but I never really got into the beats. And then I moved here, and the first person I heard read was John Burroughs, who was the US Beat Poet Laureate. And I've been kind of chasing these beats around now because there's just something about the freedom within their poetry and how they use it for their social justice causes that really appeals to me. So I'm trying to absorb some of that knowledge. I just took a class with Ron Whitehead, who's the Lifetime Beat Poet Laureate. He's amazing. There's a documentary about him on Amazon you should watch called The Outlaw Poet.
What makes an outlaw poet? Like to me, what the one poet that really escapes me, it really does. Maybe because it's just how I'm wired. But the one poet, like I really never really gotten to him at all or his writing at all because I guess I was just too busy looking at his surroundings, and because he was sitting there saying how life should be this way, yet as much as he said it should be this way, he lived it the opposite way. And I
So
felt like I don't understand how you can sit there and pontificate about how life should be and how you should live your life when you're self-destructing over here in a corner.
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, and that would be Charles Bukowski.
Now, I'm conflicted on him because I
Yeah,
do like some of his writings, but let's not pretend he wasn't a raging misogynist.
no, or like I said, he was a horrible drunk, a mean drunk from what I read. Used narcotics. I mean, he just to me that kind of artist frustrates me the most. Um, when you see someone with that, see, this is why I respect Katie so much. This is why I rave about her because she knows what her gift is. She can write and drop a poem or lyrics at a drop at a hat. Drop the hat and she's got something. She'll have something for you before the hat hits the ground. Now, I haven't talked about your process yet, and we will. But what I really appreciate about that is that she's able to do that with a clear head and a clear heart. She knows what her talent is,
She's
and she won't
brilliant.
waste. She
Yeah,
really is.
she's texted me and said, "Give me 2 nouns." While I'm out running my errands, and I give her 2 nouns, and by the time I get home, she's written a poem.
Right. If she's even written it. I mean, she could probably drop a freestyle and then go write it. And to me, I think that's a blessing. And she has it and she respects it. And to me, what's frustrating about a lot of artists is they feel like they have to live a certain lifestyle. Like I have to be Bukowski, I have to be Hemingway, I have to be I have to be whoever you want it to be, Kerouac. I have to live like that in order to be like that. And it's like, who said that? Who
Yeah,
said that? You know?
I think we're all influenced by some of the writers we read first. So, for instance, I'm often influenced by Anna East Nin, and because of her, Henry Miller. another great writer, another misogynist, who lived that crazy kind of lifestyle. I think a lot of poets I know, and myself included, when you spend some time with a poet reading their book, maybe you play around with forms the way that they did, just to, see if you can do it. But there are poets, I see a lot of poets who like to emulate Poe. I love Poe. Probably, one of my earliest memories of a poem is The Raven.
Yeah.
And I'm a goth girl, so of course I love Poe. But sometimes I see these brilliant writers who get stuck because they're trying to emulate their idol.
And they take on that destructive lifestyle too. And in turn, a lot of their gifts get lost in the wash, because they're too busy trying to be that person who they're trying to emulate and not being themselves, and it's you can emulate the words. I don't mind that. I just don't like the lifestyle emulations. You don't like to be like blues players. Like I talked about this a lot. Like anybody picks up a blues guitar and wants to play in a blues band, man, they feel like they have to, in order to become a true blues player, they have to take on certain behavioral, context. And it's like, you don't have to do that, because a lot of look at how many great musicians that we've had and lost because of self-destruction behavior.
Well, I think part of that, I think, is many artists, especially poets, are very sensitive, and being a highly sensitive individual in this world can be painful. And I think a lot of people, go to vices to try to give themselves a bit of strength from that. I'm not saying it's the right way, but I can see why that happens.
I can see why it happens too. I mean, I can see why it happens, but to me, it's like, why does it have to happen? Why do you like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of poets. I'm sure there's some of them out, like I've seen a lot of poets, and I'd be sitting there like, during open mics, and I mentioned this before. I knew some brilliant poets, but wow, they had to get half smashed before they could go on there and do open mics. And I'm just going like, why? I mean, you're brilliant.
Liquid courage.
Oh, now do you have to have liquid courage before you go up there and read?
In my 20s, yes. I won't lie. Yeah, I had a really hard time with social anxiety, and even today, now when I read, I'm fighting nerves the whole time. It's getting easier the more I put myself out there and do it. And it depends too on the crowd. I went to a reading recently where the poets were so welcoming and just super cool that I read a really vulnerable piece I'd never written in public before. And they were like, holy crap, we can't believe you read that. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. It depends on a lot of things, but I understand why people need that, because there's a lot of vulnerability that comes with putting your poetry out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
I also saying it's the best way.
No, I just think that the more you do it, the more confident you get. Burnt Stone just walked in and has a question. Says they want to know, what is your style of poetry, and when did you start writing? So basically, they're taking my first question.
Well, I started writing when I was about 6, and it's kind of a funny story because I was desperate to try to do these little poems, and I didn't yet quite have a grasp on writing, right? So I was at this big antique table at a family friend's house trying desperately to write something, but I'm still learning to write. And I was pressing so hard on the pencil that my words are forever engraved into his antique table.
Ooh.
Yeah, I felt really bad, but I was so young.
But just think how much money it's going to be worth when you become famous and become.
Yeah, let's hope he still has it.
A renowned poet.
My poetry runs the gambit. A lot of it's confessional, like 19th century style confessional poetry, but I write in all different styles, and I'm still actually in school getting my BA in creative writing with a concentration in poetry, because I like to break the rules, but to break the rules properly, I feel like you have to know all the rules. So I'm learning about the scansion and the feet of a poem and like deep diving. And so this semester they had us writing everything. I can tell you the one I had the most difficulty with was a villanelle. But they had us from sonnets to free verse and everything in between.
Now, what school are you taking this class at?
I go to SNHU online.
Okay.
And they also have a poetry MFA, which I don't know if I'm going to go all the way to an MFA. I suppose I'll know the day I graduate.
Yeah, that would be the MFA. What does it require to get one? I mean, what are they looking for
Way
that?
more schooling and a dissertation, really long papers, because it's a master's of fine arts. So most people who get an MFA that I know end up being professors.
Okay, that would be a good job to have.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
And Katie mentions poets are rule breakers. Yes, they are. I think at heart every poet is a rule breaker.
Got that little rebel in me, just can't help it.
No, I totally agree with that 100%. I don't know any good poets that play it safe.
Right.
I mean, I know poets, but those who stay in that small box and without going out of that box, they just don't. They never grow. You know, you have to, in order to grow as a poet, you have to keep moving forward. You can't stop. You can't rest on your laurels. You got to keep going.
Yeah, and for me, I can't stay locked in an office just writing. You have to experience things to change your viewpoint, to inspire words, you know.
Yeah, see, that's exactly right. See, to me, that's what's really, going back to Bukowski. Here he sat on the bar, he sat on bars, and yet he was trying to expound on being a poet and a pundit, and yet at the same time, it's like, but you never went anywhere. You didn't, you got to live life. You got to live life at least somewhat soberly, so you can understand, so you can remember what you've seen and what you've experienced. I mean, what's the point? What's the point of writing, or if you can't remember what you wrote?
I guess I wouldn't say he went nowhere, because we are, after all, talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
So he made it somewhere, but where could he have went without the booze?
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
Right? That's the question.
That's the question. That's the true question. That would have been. I would have liked to see him been a rule breaker. I would have liked to see him. Because a lot of times people feel like maybe poets have to be a certain way. Again, it's like some feel like they have to drink, and it's like, or use other things to a lot of this to me, and I could be wrong about this, but really what it is, and I think even you just reinforced my thought about this, was you just have to be confident. To me, I think that is the number one weapon for a poet to have, is confidence.
Fake it till you make it if you don't have it.
I do.
Confidence comes with, I think confidence comes. So there's poets who never actually perform. There's poets who perform pieces and just read them. There's poets who, like Katie, do these spoken word masterpieces. And I was telling her last time I talked to her, she has this one piece where I was like the Theta Bara of it all. Like, she reminded me of Theta Bara in this piece that she recited. It was gorgeously done. And I think, yes, the confidence level, I think the more confident you are, the more you can, go from just reading to turning it into a performance. I don't yet have the confidence to trust my brain for memorization, so I always have my stuff.
Oh, I know. Just about everybody does that. Everybody. I mean, Katie's a little different. She doesn't have. She remembers everything she writes. But I've known a couple of poets that could read from memory, but most of them, like 80% of them, 85%, yeah, they would always, every time they'd go up there and they would have their paper to read.
The anxiety of not having the paper isn't worth it.
Yeah. Because a lot of times someone would get out the paper and they might remember like 95% of the poem, but somebody in the crowd's going to remember the 5% that you missed and going like, did you change it? Then you're going like, no, I just forgot it. But um, that does happen. But no, look what happened to you though, Stasha. You walked inside that room, a lot of great poets there. You popped up and we had confidence to get up there and read your poem, and then everybody's like, wow, their minds were blown. Did you not walk out of that room feeling like 10 foot tall? Like,
well, that night was just a magical night because I have to say these were very generous poets. It was Michael Buckley Smith, George David Clark, and Ryan Wilson. They're friends, and they're all academic poets. And it was such a cool night that we all went next door and had dinner together. And I got to sit with them and pick their brains. And they were like, oh, you would love this poet in LA named Matt Wall. Go find him right now. And so I hooked up with him, and now we chat. So yeah, it was like that kind of night you dream about. Really.
And look what got you there. Your confidence got you there. Not anything else.
Yeah, I actually have the picture on my wall of that night. I was the only woman to read.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was another interesting part of it.
Wow. That's, what I've always found that there's more, from my experience, I've always found there's more women poets than there were men. Is that the case with you, or is it 50-50, or what percentage are men poets and what are women?
On the online writing community, like Facebook, I'd say that's way more women. But in person here in Cleveland, it seems like it's more men.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Let's see. Bernstone mentions, is it hard to memorize your poetry? And do you agree? And do you enjoy spoken word? Will you continue? Have you done spoken word yet?
I do spoken word. I'm not Katie, but I hope to be one day.
I think you hope to be you one day.
Well, I mean, I hope to be able to perform the way that she performs her pieces. Like, that is my ultimate goal.
Yeah, Katie's a powerhouse.
But if I just get up and perform a piece now, I'm proud of myself with that. I'm going in stages. I didn't share my poetry with anyone but professors until a year ago.
And here you are a year later, and you'll be sharing some pieces here on an interview show with a complete stranger.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Isn't it amazing how far you come? That's cool as hell. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So let's go back a little bit to, just go back a little bit. Like, you were 6 for sure when you first started, but how old were you when you really realized what you were writing? And did you start keeping journals? Did you start writing your poetry?
Yeah, I'm an avid journaler, always have been. I got pandemic brain during COVID and burnt 30 years worth of journals. I don't know. I don't regret it, but it happened. I guess I knew probably when I was around 8. I was in general classes, except in English. I was in honors English. And I used to write poems on just index cards. And I had this little recipe box my grandma gave me that I'd keep them in. And my teacher was so supportive of my poetry. And they'd read them to the class and they'd say, this is what you need to be doing. Be consistent, do it every day. And that was a teacher that's Mr. Allen, who I will always remember because I didn't get a lot of feedback from teachers. So to have one actually really like what I was doing. But, my mom has my parents are bikers, and she's got this poem. I think I was 10 or 11 when I wrote it. And it's like, Harley Davidsons are rad. The people who ride them aren't bad. They're just proud that they're American made. So I was always writing little things. I think my love of poetry comes from first Dr. Seuss, honestly. I love a good rhyming poem. I know it's a big thing in the poetry world. People love it or hate it. I like meter, I like rhyme, but then also Shel Silverstein.
Oh, yes.
So those were the first two poets I encountered as a child. And so I tend to write quite a lot of rhyming. I just love it. But I've had some poets like, I hate rhyming poems. Like, I think it's the worst. I think they're
No.
cheap in a way. But it's like, it's not always easy to get things to rhyme. And I'm often told that I have an unusual rhyming scheme. I'm still not sure what they mean by that, but a couple of my professors have said it. But it definitely came from reading Seuss and Silverstein. It definitely did.
Did you ever read Shel Silverstein's autobiography?
I haven't yet.
Highly recommend it.
I want to. I tutor kids and at the library, and he comes into play a lot because I had a kid who was almost nonverbal, loves rap music. Well, I listen to almost everything, but not rap. So I was like, ooh, what am I going to do to get him connected to wanting to read? And we busted out Shel Silverstein's poem about knobby knees, and he was laughing so hard that I knew this book got him. Like, he's interested in reading now because of Shel Silverstein. But I also have people sent me his picture where he's like got his arms propped on his knees, looking like a sexy guru kind of guy.
Yeah.
Have you seen that photo of him?
Yeah, and that was in the 60s.
That is not at all how I thought he would look.
You know where he used to hang out at? He used to live there, where you on the West Coast. He was actually a close friend to Hugh Hefner, and he was like sort of like the poet of residence at the Playboy
mansion.
Yeah, both in Chicago and Los Angeles.
I could see a poet fitting into that environment.
Hugh Hefner was so much more than what he appeared to be. You know, he really was. He really was a Renaissance man. And he mean to have someone like and Shel Silverstein, he did the art for the early editions of Playboy. He did all the art in it.
It's very cool.
Yeah, very.
You know who else is a Renaissance man and a poet? Viggo Mortensen.
Yes.
Just love him. When I found out he was a poet on top of everything else, I was like, oh, I didn't think I could love this guy more. And then I found out he writes poetry.
He was married to Exene from a band called X.
Oh.
And that's a different story, but he married Exene from the. I'm not sure if they're still together or not, but I do know he married her. And she's one of the best songwriters forever. So as far as spoken word goes, well, as far as your poetry, you said you were about 8 before you're able to you're able to put together. You all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Yes. Now, and your parents encouraged you, and
oh no, they didn't.
No, they didn't encourage you to write.
I come from a family where you keep everything swept under the rug, so the last thing you want is a angsty teenage poet daughter writing all the family drama into poems and turning them into school.
Well, how long? I mean, but did that happen while you were still in high school? And then once you got out, then they're like, okay, got out of school. Now they embraced it, or did they ever embrace it?
They embrace it now. My mom has all my chapbooks. Yeah, absolutely. But when I was a kid, it was a point of contention.
Oh, 30 journals kicking around in the bedroom. Well, I'm sure you know what though. But the fact is that nothing ever happened to your journals. Like some parents would have actually just like, whoops, forgot. I didn't realize that what they were when I tossed them. I'm sure your mom probably read them when you weren't there.
Well, she did toss a couple. She said they were satanic. But that was during a time when I was very much reading Baudelaire, the Marquis de Sade, and Dante, and I was writing down quotes from all of them in my journals. And my mom is not someone who reads a lot of older literature or poetry at all. And so when she saw their words, when she saw Marquis de Sade's words in my journal, she thought I wrote that. And I was like, I wish.
Right. Oh.
But well, yeah, some of the people I read really turned them off, my parents. They were not, they got a punk rock daughter. I was punk first, then goth. And then I'm listening to the Circle Jerks and Revco, and I'm looking at Robert Mapplethorpe's photography, and I'm reading the Marquis de Sade and Baudelaire. It was a lot for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see being slightly overwhelmed, but that's like you said, though, it's typical teenagers. I knew a lot of teenagers that when I was growing up, there was a few that would read that, and be open minded enough for it. Hell, when I was 14 years old, my mom walked in there and put the Joyous Sex on my bed and said, "Read that, and then if you have any questions, come ask me."
Bravo
Now
to
I
your
don't know
mom.
any I don't know any parent that would do that, but she don't want to be. She says, I just don't want to be a grandma." That's what she was like. No chance of that. But I don't want to become a grandma early. But she said, yeah. So I mean, some parents are like that, and then there's some that maybe they're religious. You know, maybe they walk with a right side limp, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Um,
my mom and dad aren't artistic, and then they had two artistic kids, so they really had it. We really stretched their minds to places they weren't wanting to go.
right. Let's see. All right. I think we should start asking some questions because I think people are wanting to hear some questions. Okay. Uh, Katie wants to know what made you start writing the anthology. So maybe you
I
can tell us about the anthology first, and then tell us about the genesis of it.
Okay, the anthology is called CAW, Poetry by a
Oh,
Murder of Writers.
okay.
It's 13 poets writing on birth, life, and death. I used to rehab crows and ravens for the wildlife rehab in Northern California. So I spent a lot of time with these birds, especially the
Smart.
ravens. They're
Smart. They're
wicked
smart birds.
smart. Wicked smart. Even last time I went to visit California, the one I helped the most remembered me and was like, "Where's my favorite snack? I hope you brought it." And I was like, "Yes, here you go." So I was with these birds and I had this idea percolating of I wanted to do this anthology, but I didn't know a ton of poets who'd be willing to write at that time. So I kind of put it on the back burner and I didn't have the idea completely flushed out. But when I moved to Cleveland, I had a dream one night about how this book should go. And I woke up and I immediately wrote it all down. And I said, okay, now I know the whole idea. I'm going to do this book. And I started asking some of my favorite writers. And I asked John Burroughs, he's a poet laureate. And he said, yes. I was like, this is awesome because I don't want just one kind of poetry. So let's put a beat poet in there. I want it to kind of show all the different styles. And then a publisher asked me if they could pick it up. And they did. And then they dropped it. And then it was back on me. And I thought, this is going to be how I learn how to self-publish books. Because I've always done chapbooks, do it yourself. Little ones. I have quite a few, but this is my first full-length book. And because so many of my friends are in it, they've been so helpful when I've gotten stuck. But the amount of decisions you have to make gets a little overwhelming at first. I was like, I got to pick a font for the cover and art that will sell it, make the cover look good. And then what font am I going to use inside? And what am I going to do with these chapter pages? Am I going to put pictures of the poets in? Like, it was a lot of decision making. And I've seen the final electronic version. But like I said, my proof copy got lost in those tornadoes. So my new proof copy will be here tomorrow because I want to see what everything looks like laid out and make sure that nothing needs to be changed. So that's how that one came about. Over here on the wall, I have a Post-it wall where I got about 12 other book ideas up there. But I wanted my first book to be an anthology with my friends. So it's a labor of love. And every time I see it, I'm going to remember everyone who helped me make it happen.
Of course. Now, how did you go about choosing your 13 poets? Because I'm sure you knew a lot of poets. So how did you get it down to your final 13?
I know what I like. And So I asked those poets whose poems I personally liked the most. I have poets in there from, got Danny White from England, got S.A. Quinox from Belgium. You know, I got 2 Cleveland poets in there, Katie from Chicago. We've got the singer from the goth band Lycia, Tara Von Flowers, in it, because she writes lyrics, right? So she also writes poetry. We got Emily, who writes has a whole set of novels out, but it was really just my favorite poets. The people who, when I am scrolling online and they come up, I'm like, I got to read this one.
So you got your 13 together. Did you what did you contribute? Did you just contribute the forward or
No, I'm
did
in there as well. I have pieces in there, and I did the forward, and I co-edited. What's great also about the book is my friend Hyacinth Raven, we've known each other since we were teenagers. She has several books out, but she doesn't work with anybody. She likes to work alone.
Sure.
And so when I asked her, at first she was like, I don't know. But then she ended up coming on board as a writer and my co-editor, and we worked beautifully together. And then our friend Clint Catalyst, another writer that I've known since I was a teenager, he just blurbed it for me.
Okay.
So
okay.
It's like some people that have been in my life longer than anyone else. So it's been this really, it's just filled with love. And the poetry is amazing. And all the money from the book is going to the Ohio Bird Sanctuary. So they can buy GPS units for their vultures who are human imprints and can never be released. And I met one of them named Elliot. He was pretty cool. I have a painting in the hallway from him that he did with his feet.
Yeah, turkeys are like that. There are a lot of wild turkeys in the Midwest. I'm in Michigan. I'm next door to you. So yeah, we've seen our fair of wild turkeys too. And some of them are really cool, and then some will charge at you, and then then you show them the salt shaker, and they quit running after you.
Well, this is the big vultures, and what was interesting when I met him, because I wanted to see the facility before I chose them to put the funds into, make sure they're doing the good work, and the vultures don't have vocal cords, but he still managed to make this happy sound whenever he got treats.
Now now they don't have vocal cords. No, we talking about birds here. So the money for the book's going to go to the sanctuary then.
All of it, yeah.
Okay. Now, when do you have do you have a publishing date already, or
October 3rd?
October 3rd. It's not that far away, is it?
I'm super excited. Then it'll be my turn to learn how to market a book properly.
Our good friend and also fellow wordsmith, I am the Ice Lord, is here. How you doing, Wes? He's saying hello to you, Stasha.
Hey, Wes.
Yes. Yeah, he is a poet of his own. That is for sure. Glad you're here, Wes. So now you get the book. You get the book ready to roll out. Now this, I did not mean to say that, Wes, but I have to. So you got the book ready to roll out. Now, is this your first book that you've done by yourself? Your first anthology? Now, how many books have you published of your own work?
This is my first full book. Everything else has been chapbooks.
Oh, okay. Now, what is a chapbook?
Let's see. Let me grab one and show you. I think I have some over here. I have a couple different little ones. It's just it's very punk rock. It's do it yourself.
Okay. So like a zine, right?
Wow, this is all my angsty stuff. This is all angsty poems. And I did one last year called Sidewalk Sanctuary, which were poems that I wrote since moving to Ohio, and I sold out of that one. But they're just a smaller, shorter, and more hands-on. Because there's even some that have individual art. Some writers will do individual art for each of their chapbooks.
Now, so chapbooks are small like zines, do-it-yourself zines.
Yeah, I come from zine land, so this shouldn't be. I grew up in Iowa and used to help on Industrial Nation magazine, so I got my start, in zine land.
Oh my gosh, I used to read Maximum Rock and Roll and Yeah, used to read. Yeah,
The
and
tattoo on my chest was drawn for me by a pen pal I made from the back of Maximum Rock and Roll magazine when I was 15 years old.
now I love Maximum Rock and Roll. They were a little bit weird, but the one that
I
really
loved it.
got me was Flipside. Man, I was a huge Flipside fan. I was like, every month I'm going out there. I got to see what's coming up. I got to see what's going on. And Flipside was the bomb for me. Uh, uh, in fact, they actually helped me later on when I got into music, because I had been reading up on a lot of these bands, even though I wasn't in music at the time. But once I started, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I know all these bands.
Yeah, see,
Uh,
that's where my pen name came from that I used for writing Strange. That's what I used at Industrial Nation when I had to do the music reviews, because people would get really pissed off if you didn't like their music.
no doubt. Oh my gosh, yeah, Max and Rock and Roll was king for that. Oh my lord, you go back there and read the letter page. It was you're wondering when the book was going to explode by itself in flames because people were so upset. No doubt about that.
I
Uh,
know.
now, Flipside was was cooler though. They didn't have that fanaticism. But are poets like that too? I mean, are fans of poetry do they get that upset about their writing, or like if they're writing, if they submit it to a magazine or
No.
what have you, it doesn't get picked. If it doesn't get picked and somebody else's does, do they get really upset about that? Do they like break out the poison pen and complain about it? Or did you get any heat from your anthology that people said, well, how come I'm not in it?
I didn't get heat from the anthology, but I did get heat from, and this is so dumb. There was an online contest that I won and someone else didn't, and they hate my guts over it. And the prize was maple syrup. And
You
it's
want
like
to
a jar this big of Canadian maple syrup, and the jar shaped like a maple leaf.
they got upset that you won that.
Oh yeah. They hate me legit over the maple syrup.
This is where great poems are born. This is when you
Oh,
can sit down there and write like 6 or 7 poems just based on that alone.
yeah, that's the angst
I'm
poems
already,
in
I'm
the
already,
chat book.
I'm telling you right now, I'm looking side-eyed right now at the chat, because now that you said that, I'm expecting Katie to drop a poem right now about a maple leaf jar. I'm telling you. Uh, Wes says all his poems rhyme, so he's not a poet. See, that's the whole thing, though. Wes, you
They
can
rhyme.
rhyme
I
it.
love meter
You
though.
can rhyme or not rhyme.
Meter's
Uh,
great. Rhyming is awesome.
yeah.
And it's
I
not
mean,
as simple as the people who talk crap about it. I'd love to see them try, because it's not as simple as you think. To do it and
uh,
make it sound good is not simple.
I mean, it is hard. I mean, it really is hard. Um, I mean, it's lyricist, man. I think those who can't write poems, those who can't write poetry, and this might catch me some heat here, but I'm just going to say it honestly. Those who cannot write poetry or understand it or spoken word, they write songs. I
I
mean,
don't know. I can think of a lot of musicians I know that are great lyricists and great poets. Don't
very
you
few,
feel like they can go hand in hand?
very few.
Dare we mention Taylor Swift?
No, cannot mention Taylor Swift.
Love
No,
her or hate her, she's an amazing lyricist.
she's a good lyricist, but she is not a poet. Now, someone like a Neil Young is a poet. Someone
Stevie
like
Nicks.
Stevie Nicks is a poet. Someone like Barbara Manning or Penelope Houston are poets. Taylor Swift is not. Not to me anyway. I mean, that could be different to other people. I'm sure a lot of Swifties would sit there and say, "You're so wrong," and I'm going like, "Yeah, well, I may be, but not today. Not today." But but because writing is tough, and you're right. I mean, getting up there. I mean, there's some people that do worry about that, and you can see that in their poems. I'm sure you see it a lot better than someone like me, but you can tell when someone's struggling to make a rhyme work. You know, like
Yeah.
I got to make this connect. It's like, no, you don't have to. Just relax. It'll come to you. If it's meant to be, it will come through your hand.
Freedom from form isn't automatic. Like, that's what I
Yeah.
was saying about the beat poets. Listening to them and being in a room with them kind of gave me this freedom to just write without a form. Because I do like doing form. I like different forms, but the free verse has been amazing for me. And it's just put it on the page and hope for get it there.
Okay, so let's go to the chat. Cause I said earlier I was looking at a side eye. And allow me, Katie, to read this. Leaves fall softly from overhead. The simple sound of the maple tree spreading this life into the autumn wind. The leaves rustle and collect at her feet, each one a poem for her dark birds. Thank you.
Wait, does that mean she wrote a poem for me now? Because that's amazing.
She wrote a poem for you based on the maple leaf, and now you just had me read it to you.
Yeah,
so
see,
you got two talents for the price of one.
That's amazing. My brain is not as fast as hers. The speed in which she can write is mind-boggling to me.
It is. And now everybody has me on record as reading a poem over the net. The Ice Lord says, "Oh, you guys aren't going to like my poetry." Oh, that's because Wes is more of a he's more of a machine, more of a mechanical poet. He's sort of like an Autobot from a Transformer.
I love the Transformers.
Me too.
Like seriously.
Oh my gosh! Can you make him roll out?
I don't know if I remember how.
Don't worry, Wes knows. Wes knows how to do that. He knows how to roll out the Autobots.
No, I haven't rolled him out in so long. He just sits on my desk.
I'm killing him right now. I can actually hear my friend over there in Indiana losing his mind at this right now. Yes, you know what? That's a great poetry song. Don McLean, Bye Bye Miss American Pie. Yeah, that's a great song. Yeah, that's definitely poetry in motion right there.
Yeah.
Yep. Autobot.
I mean, my partner is an electronic musician, and we do a stream where he makes music and I recite poetry over it.
Okay.
And I've also seen it done with, it's usually done with a stand-up bass player or a little more like a jazz ensemble. We do more like a electronic goth kind of thing we got going on. That's fun.
And I gotta tell you, I think I'd rather, honestly, yeah. Oh, you know what? Why not? It's been 62 minutes. I have not had her drop a poem yet. I better get off my ass. I've read more poetry than she has. So we're gonna go ahead and isn't that something? We're gonna go ahead and listen to our guest Stasha here. She is gonna drop a couple of pieces for us. So give it up. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Untitled, as most of my pieces are, because I don't like to give hints. We share a melancholy heart, worlds apart. We speak in sage and second tongues, teeth and bone with no judgments in sight. I physically feel it when the birds slip into night, the pluck of a string from their heart to mine. Behind macabre sight, I see eternal struggle, turmoil, and torn tail feathers, dreams of unliving, but also a magic not yet allowed to fly. One that would keep me forever protected from sing-song suicide lies, a life I tried to toss aside before the blackbirds let me look through their eyes. The starlings are flocking against a bleeding moon as the ill winds whisper to the stars. I hear the far-off dim call, a murmuration of my own salvation. That's from CAW.
Oh, that's your contribution. How many poems did each poet get?
3. Birth, life, death. That was my life poem. Now this is a little different. No more hurry and rush. Time now for firelight and dreaming, for red and bluebirds mingling with the cold, quiet shadow of the sun. And somewhere deep within you, a seed of courage unfurling, fed by love and each day more light. Your goddess by your side, ever still and silent night. Alchemy flickers amid the carol of the crow. Be the spark that lights the breaking of each day. I write some more I write some positive ones sometimes.
Sometimes. I think you get some positive out of this. I mean, I'm sure after we're done here, I'm sure you'll go back there and say, you know, I had a really fun time doing that interview. Let me drop a couple of happy poems.
Well, you were my first poetry interview.
This is your first time you've ever been interviewed?
About my poetry, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I always get the first ones. I always get the first ones. I most people that come talk to me, I'm their first interview.
Because you make them comfortable.
Well, I hope so. I hope you're having fun because I'm having a ball.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun. It says most art comes from darkness. You ain't kidding there, Katie. You're not kidding there. I mean, if I were to write anything, it would be so damn black. Nobody could see my words if I wrote it. It's nothing but. But Wes says that was burnt stone, and nice meeting you. And if you're a poet, we need to talk. Thank you. She said it was. He or she said it was really good. Ice Lord. He said it was beautiful.
Thank you.
There's our friend Al Lucard, aka the Bat, rolling on in strong. No, you won't, Wes. You are killing me, Smalls. Hey Al, how are you? How are you? Glad you guys are all enjoying this. This is a lot of fun. So now you got your first anthology out. Tell us about the first time that you read your poems in public. Like the first time that was it a scheduled date where you read, or
yes.
was it okay. So it was
I was published in a book called Ohio Bards, and they actually did a book release party, and I told him I'm not reading because I was too nervous. I said I'm not reading. And then John Burroughs, the Beat Poet Laureate, is one of the first people to read. And you got to look him up. Like, he's amazing. And then they called my name. And I was like, I said I wasn't going to read, but I didn't want to be in a situation where the room was like, do it. So I just got up and did it. And I don't remember much of it.
You know what? I don't blame you. I mean, if I had to follow somebody like that, man, that would just. But then again, you know what? It's also the way I look at it is I got nothing to lose.
You know what? Being there was a blessing because he has his finger on the pulse of the poetry scene here. And by hooking up with him, he keeps a calendar of events. And because of him, I found all these other places that I can go read, listen, do things with. So he's very special to me. I cannot tell you how happy I was when he said yes to doing CAW, because he's a huge deal. He's one of the only poets I know who does poetry full time. That's his job. That's how he makes his money. He's a full-time poet.
So he goes around and he reads his poetry in front of classes and workshops and all that. That's you know what?
I actually did take one of his classes too. He did a class on beat poetry and I took it. Like anything. But I want to go back to something because I think the story will amuse you. So you're like, has anyone ever, hated something? And I told you about the maple syrup. But I had this other interesting thing happen.
And Katie's sitting right there ready to drop a poem right when you tell the story. You know it's gonna happen.
I posted a poem and then I woke up and it went kind of viral. And I was like, let me see who's sharing it because it had 50,000 shares. And then all the shares were churches. And I was like, because it was a poem about sex, but because I used the word baptism, They interpreted it to be a poem about a baptism and not a poem about sex written by a heathen. And that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, whose definition of baptism might be slightly different than what they're expecting.
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. But it was just, to me, how a poem can mean. I've had someone say a poem I posted saved their life, because I deal with depression and I write about it often. And
Sure.
I didn't even particularly like that poem. I almost took it down because I didn't like it. And then they were like, that poem saved my life last night. And I was like, ooh, I got to quit judging my stuff and just put it out there. Because that's crazy to have someone tell you that something you wrote saved them or helped them in such a profound way.
Can you do that, Stasha? Can you just, when you write, I talked about this with actors, like when they play a character, like, can you go and let go of that character after the movie's over with? And some people struggle with it a little bit. Some people say it's as soon as they say rap, it's over with, or some carry it with them. But let me ask you, when you write your poetry and you put it out there, can you just walk away from it, or does it stay with you? Yeah,
I can.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would probably be crucial, in case, especially if you're writing from somewhere, because sometimes we all do. I'm sure you have written a lot of your best poems while you're in a little bit of a funk, a little bit of darkness, not completely dark, not Bukowski dark, but from, like, not having too much sun on you. But then, once you put it out there, like, you have no regrets. It's like, I need to go back there, because to me, I think the worst thing a poet can do, I really do, is to go back and try to correct what they originally wrote. Because once you start doing that, the poem has lost magic. It's lost.
It's funny you say that, because right when CAW was almost complete, one of the writers came back and said, is there still time to change that? Because I couldn't quit editing it. And I said, yeah, of course, because you want it to be the poem that they want. But people edit differently. But me, once I'm done, I'm usually done. Yeah. And because I write, like, I'm still old school, right? So in my inbox right here, all these are poems. I handwrite them, then I type them, then I edit them. So by the time I actually get to one, I could have written it months ago.
As far as, but when you say you edit them, you're editing them for grammatical errors. That's it. That's all you. I mean, I understand that, and I completely completely agree with that. But if you go back there and you start moving the lines around and switching words, to me, that's just you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. And I think it takes away the power of the words that you originally put down on paper.
I didn't used to edit, but of course it is a class in college, so we are learning about editing, and I can see where it is good in some forms, especially if you're doing forms and you want to have your best piece, because I live by that quote. I think it's Stephen King, actually. Don't try to write it right, just get it on the page and make it right after.
Right.
So it depends on what kind of poem it is. And, my poetry on my free time and my poetry written for my school time are so completely different, because one is very free and no editing, and then the other is very structured and editing is required.
Yeah, like I said, I get that. I mean, I get that you have to edit it out for grammatical errors, or or what have you. But I mean, it's not like the one where you take it and I need to edit it because I'm going to move words around, and I'm going to put this sentence over here and this. No, please just do the grammatical errors.
I had this interesting assignment this semester, and I would suggest any poet try it, because it was a exercise, right? So they had us write a poem on the first day of class about family trauma. And then the next week we had to edit that poem into a sonnet. And then the week after that, we had to edit the same poem into a villanelle. And then the week after that, we edited it into yet another form. So it was, I found it really difficult.
Now, can you explain some of the technical terms that you're using? You mentioned form
so a sonnet is, you usually think of Shakespeare, an iambic pentameter. A villanelle is shorter, and there's a count of a certain amount of syllables per line. There was another one called a pantoum that I had to do, and it's where every stanza uses an identical line. So whatever the last line in your stanza was for your first stanza now needs to be the first line of your second stanza.
Wow. Okay.
So some of that actually makes your brain go places it wouldn't normally go. So I find after I try doing those that I do, even on my free writing, it changes a little bit because my brain has had to rework all these things, and it does make you look at the words differently. But yeah, I was so mad about that assignment. I was hating school every day. I was like, well, I write this same if I would have known I had to edit this poem into 6 different forms, I would have written a different poem on day 1. But of course, they didn't tell us that that's what we were going to do.
Right, because they don't want you to be, forewarned. You got to be able to, you got to be able to write at the drop of a hat. Like come up with something out of the drop of a hat. Right. Let me catch up with the chat here real quick. I've been sort of ignoring this really bad here. Let me go back here. Our good buddy Al Lecard is in the house, aka the Bat. Horror Cat Dad is in the house. That's right. Roughnecks. He's a roughneck. A roughneck. All right. Do you want to know more? Saying hello. Al says the Cheetah always gets the best guess. Yes, I do. I will give myself credit when credit is due. I do get the best guess. Thank you, Al. Larry says here, just to have a similar story where I wrote a poem during detention in high school, and they called me out and they read it out in front of the people in detention. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hopefully they asked you if they could do that, if they would mind.
Yeah, because if they didn't ask, that's a jerk move right there.
That's a bit of yeah. If they asked you if they could read it, I think that's amazing. But if they did it just to try to show you up, not a good move. Al says that sounds like a comedy movie moment, Larry. Yes, sort of like a Breakfast Club moment. Betty says hi to Al. See. Al says, I used to write lyrics when I was younger. I look back now and cringe. See what I'm saying about lyrics?
Teenage goth poetry. I am worried every time I write a poem. Don't let this be bad teenage goth poetry.
Yeah, don't let this be Sisters of Mercy, please.
Yeah, especially because Andrew Eldridge is a jerk.
I love Sisters of Mercy.
I love them till I met him, and I'm only now, like 25 years later, able to listen to them without feeling through my heart that he was such an a-hole.
Well, you would have got along famously with Trent Reznor because he was a supremely nice guy, very nice guy. See, the Isolor says he's got a haiku for us. It's called Squirrels. I got enough nuts. Let's race cars across the street. It's the thrill that kills. Only the Ice Lord. Thank you so much for that, Wes.
So you brought up Trent Reznor. Question for you.
Yes.
Do you consider the songs off Pretty Hate Machine to be poetry?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely.
I skipped school to go get that album with my best friend Andy.
You were around when the Nine Inch Nails played The Edge. Do you remember that show?
I actually haven't seen them live yet. It's never worked out. I'm always away from wherever they're at.
Yeah, we got them for it was like supposedly like a secret show, right? But it was because they were playing a bigger concert, but they did like a warm-up show for this tour. So their agent called us and we booked them in, and of course it sold out in literally like 35 minutes. But yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. We had so much fun, and like I said, he was absolutely super nice guy, really, really nice guy. Pretty Hate Machine, Trent's still best album. Yep, I agree. Katie says,
I kind of feel like he didn't want to go that vulnerable again. And I think I
Katie,
saw in an interview somewhere where he said that was really a tough to have it get so popular when it was so vulnerable.
yeah, you know what? You just never know what moves the public. That's the thing. You just never know what words you say will move somebody. And for him, it was pretty hate machine, and people really it resonated. Resonated with people. It was like their song, their album, their sound. That's and that happens with poets as well. You hear certain poems by certain poets, and you just sit there and say that's the person. That's the person for me. I love the talent. I love the pen. I love the delivery. Probably not as much as singer songwriters per se, but still it's there.
I don't know,
um,
like it depends on which singer songwriter, because Dylan.
or yeah, or Taylor.
Joni Mitchell.
Dylan, if you can understand him, Dylan is best listen. Dylan is best when someone else is singing his songs.
Yeah, he's a bit of a mumbler, isn't he?
Yeah, I like Dylan, but someone else has to do the singing. And that's for me. All right. Katie says she's bringing me back into the poetry. When will you publish your solo book? Your solo book. So you're working on because she did say you have books. So
I've been working on my solo book for the last 6 months in conjunction with CAW, and then Kitty sneezes. But I'm rethinking a lot of the poems, so I'm not sure when it's going to be out now. I'm hoping it's going to be 2025.
okay, you're gonna go ahead and put the anthology out first, obviously. Where will we be selling that? Will be available both online and hardcover.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'll be selling it probably through Amazon, most likely, right?
Yeah. Also Barnes and Noble, probably.
Okay. I have Stasha's Instagram pinned. So if you want to follow her on her Instagram, please do that. And then if you have any questions about her work, her books coming out, either the anthology, CAW Anthology, or her solo books, you can go ahead and contact her through there, and she'll be able to help you if you wish to acquire a book. You can go ahead and do that through Instagram. So, what is the writing process like for you? As far as where do you write? How do you write? Do you set aside time to write? Are you impulsive? Like if you're sitting there watching TV, all of a sudden you feel like you need to write. What is your writing style like?
Poems come to me differently. Sometimes I'll get one that's just in there all the way, and I can't write fast enough, and I need to find paper. And you'll see in my poetry bin, I got poems written on napkins and the backs of takeout, and whatever I could find at the time when it came to me. And then I have others that the process is a little bit torturous, where I like it, but there's something I don't quite like about it yet, and I haven't quite figured out what that is. If it's been a while since I've written, I will try to make myself sit down for a couple hours a day and just get something out. I often do a prompt. I was doing different prompt poetry every day to keep my brain moving in that way, but it got a little too easy. So now I take the word of the day, where they send me the email of the word of the day, which is usually some bizarre word, and try to work that into a poem as a prompt.
Now that's a challenge right there.
Yeah, it pushes me. So, I wish sometimes poems come to me in dreams. I keep a journal right next to the bed, and I have the pen where you can just write, even if it's upside down, and, I'll just write it all out, go back to sleep, and then come back to it later. But I go out and write poetry other places too. I like to be out in nature.
Right.
And my partner is a ham radio operator, and they have all these things they do outside. So sometimes I'll go sit by a lake and just write while him and his friends are doing their thing.
Okay.
But where I'm sitting right now, this is my writing office. So I'm
Now,
usually here.
I'm going to ask you to read another piece, but I'm going to ask you to read it with one thing in it. Do you have any poems with your cats in it? Do you have any cat poems?
I have one that's just really depressing because I lost my oldest cat back in May. Let me find that poem. It's rustling down there. Let's see here.
And I agree with you, Andre. Words are definitely a bat poem. Yeah, I'll ask her. I'll ask her if she has a bat poem. I'm sure. If not, I'm sure our friend Al Ducard has a bat poem. You know, as he is a bat.
I don't think.
Really, he really is. He really is a bat.
Okay, I found it, but it's long and slightly depressing.
Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel
comfortable? Yeah,
comfortable?
I'll read it.
Okay.
No soft fur against my back or the morning alarm of the pitter-patter of toe beans walking down the hallway. No bathroom dance for the chance to lick water droplets from my feet in the shower. No demand for treats just because I was walking through the room again. No meows of curiosity sat at the sliding doors waiting for me to deliver the freedom of the forest. No traipsing through the garden with two shadows and a sun-spotted nose taking in the joy of the flowers. No family tarot draws, always waiting his turn before nose-bopping his card choice. No more, it's not 6 o'clock as I begrudgingly feed him dinner early because that's what he wants. No garage adventures, hot and stifling, chasing imaginary prey across the concrete floor. Nor more lording over the music studio, making fat beats from the director's chair. No more couch cuddles or thieving of the heating pads. No more pills or needles in my desperate attempts to keep him hydrated. No more upset at being put in the Cadillac of carriers for the most upsetting visit to the vet. You were here with me every day for 12 years through 2 moves, 6 surgeries, 2 long recoveries, nipping at my shins as I learned to walk again. The toughest times after I moved and you were my only friend. My brave cross-country adventurer, Colorado mountain-loving hotel snob, cantankerous through and through, which was just so you. No more brushing off my pets or refusing to be brushed, preferring the ragamuffin, greasy boy look. No more kisses on your soft head that you usually let me get away with. No more selfies with Dad on the arm of the couch. You two were always clowning around. No more levels of spice to describe that day's mood. On the last day, you were a Scoville 0 and we just knew. I still hear your tags clinking together at night, scooching over to make room, watching my feet at the door, even though I know you are no more. I wrote that for my cat, Jax.
Yeah, that's a beautiful poem. Thank you.
He was a beautiful cat, but he was a beautiful pain in the ass.
Yeah, but all the good cats are. That's the thing. All good cats are a pain in the ass. I hear a lot of the cheetah in that.
He was a orange, tabby looking Maine Coon, 20-pounder.
If you look up right above you there,
I see.
Yeah, you'll notice the cheetah is looking over you, and you notice that he also is orange.
Yeah.
Orange cats. Katie says, "Beautiful tribute to your familiar." That it is, but I gotta whisper that word because the cheetah he takes everything to heart, and if he hears that he's a familiar, he'll start acting like he'll want me to give him treats and read to him. And
whoa, he just wants you to admit he's already your familiar. Come on.
Yeah, he's been a lifesaver. He's more than a familiar.
Here's a picture of my boy.
Oh my gosh, orange cats are the best. Now I heard you in your poem. I heard you mention about 6 surgeries. What happened?
I've actually had 32 surgeries. I have a disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a collagen disorder that affects all the collagen in your entire body, so your joints just dislocate. Like right now, my shoulder, I have a torn rotator cuff because it dislocated, and I'm going to physical therapy for it. And it gets worse as you age, and I am much older than I look. So I'm still, just one day at a time with it. It is what it is.
Right. Yeah. Rotator cuff. Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. Hopefully you are feeling better though. Now, can you type and write and everything else? Fine. I mean,
Yeah, I just
you're
can't lift this past here right now. So
okay.
and they gave me this weird looking brace for it that I decided it was too sexy for the show. It goes like
Now, as far as as far as CAW goes, I was going to ask you this real quick. As far as CAW goes, if people buy a copy of it and they order it from you, will they at least get a signed copy before you send it out to them?
I'm going to have some to sign, even though my brain was like, why would someone want my signature when there's other writers in the book too? But I thought maybe someone would. So I will have some here that I can do signed copies.
That'll be cool. I like that a lot. I like that.
I wish I could take it to every single writer and have them all sign it, but they're across several countries. So unfortunately, that's not going to be something I can pull off.
Now that's really cool about CAW. It's an international. How long did it take you to pull all those poets together? How long did it take for you to assemble the book?
It's been a little over a year.
Okay. And it's going to come out October 3rd. CAW, 13 poets, 39 poems. And a forward and a blurb, and it's going to be exciting. You're going to get it at Barnes and Noble, and also Amazon.
Yeah.
Now, when's your next live reading that you have planned?
Probably. Let's see. I check I like to read at Loganberry Books in Cleveland, and so probably September 12th. They do a poet night once a month. I actually might have the CAW cover here. Oh, I think I do. Like this is all CAW related stuff, but looks like that.
Oh, I love it.
I've been calling this bird Echo because I've been dealing with him so long. I had to give him a name.
Echo. That's a good name. That's a good name. Do you have time to read us one more before we close out the show?
Sure.
If you have any questions for Stasha, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you have any questions about her and her writing and her poetry, feel free to drop them in the chat while she shares another piece with us.
Some nights I need to fall back into the soft of my darkness. I need to be reminded of where I've been so I don't go down that track again. I find comfort in the known, and my melancholy side and I go back a very long time. I've not vanished them, you see. They are not my enemy. They're just no longer in control of me. At times, the missing of them is as if I lost a Siamese twin, but we've not separated, we've just integrated. That morbid goth kid and this goddess who lets her light shine from within. I wrote that one for myself.
That's beautiful. And I can't think of a better way for us to end the show than on a high note like that. I want to thank you very much, Stasha, for coming in and hanging out with us. I'm glad that we were your first interview. I'm sure there will be many more coming out, especially once CAW is released. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people wanting to come and talk about it with you. And when you publish your solo book in 2025, well, you'll definitely have to come by and talk to us about it.
Absolutely.
I had an absolutely great time. Thank you for sharing your words with us. I appreciate that. I feel poems are just like songs. They're precious, and you don't really ask for, when you ask for someone to share their words, it's a very great honor that when they do that, and I appreciate you for doing it. I want to thank the chat today. You guys have absolutely you killed it today. I appreciate that as well. Thank you for all coming out, Andre and Katie and Burnt Stone and our good friend Al, and of course the mighty Ice Lord. Good to see you, Wes. Really good to see you.
Tell Wes to send me a poem. StashaStrange@gmail.com. I want to read this now.
You know what? I will do that. I'll get your email from on Instagram. I'll send it to him. I'm sure he will come up with something. He is a bit of a rogue. Our dear Ice Lord is. I want to thank our friend Larry who came out and hung out with us today. And let's see and Betty J also came out. Thank you so much, Betty. Thank you so much. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. And if you know a poet, if you know a poet that would like to come out here and talk to us, please introduce us. And I'd love to get some more coming onto the show. All right, tomorrow we are back again on a Friday. We are back on a Friday. We'll be here at 4 o'clock Eastern time, talking with Alexander Nevsky and Joe Cornett and Tatiana Neva about their new Western film, taken from Rio Bravo. That's a badass movie too. Let me tell you. I don't know what kind of movies you like, but if you like westerns, you're gonna love that movie. They will be here at 4 o'clock, and we'll be talking cowboys and Indians with Alexander and Joe. And that's it. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday for Kim Durham. All right, everybody, you stay right where you're at if you don't mind, Stasha, and to the chat, I'll say thank you so much for coming out, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace. That was fun.